Welcome to Your Next Stop. This is Juliette Hahn. I am a wife, mom, virtual coach, public speaker, and crazy obsessed dog lover. I am so honored to be able to take you into the life of someone that has followed a passion. Every week, I hope you are as inspired as I am. Welcome to Your Next Stop. Hey guys, welcome to Next Stop Crazy Town, the Love What You Do series. So another Clubhouse favorite of mine who we literally send each other voice text and crack up, but we've never met. So I'm so excited to have Doryn Wallach. I said that right, Doryn,
you
right?
Did.
Great. She's a mama too. She also has an amazing podcast. It's called It's Not a Crisis. It basically dives into 30s and 40s, the crazy fucked up shit that happens to all of us. And I cannot wait for her to share a little bit more. But first, you're going to share your quote, right? Hi, Doryn. I'm so glad that you're here.
Hi, Juliette. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy that I have a new friend in you.
Well, so we do. We make each other laugh, which I love.
And we're going to hang out all summer, too.
100%.
Okay. So, yeah, we definitely have the same humor. Okay, so in light of that, I felt it was important to have both a quote that related to kind of what I'm talking about in my podcast and because I feel like we just laugh a lot. So my quote is, too old for Snapchat, too young for Life Alert.
That is a good one.
Right.
So mine kind of fits in with our like newfound friendship. So if you have crazy friends, you have everything.
That's so true.
Okay, Doryn, so I want you to take us through because you've done a lot of awesome stuff, but from what you have told me, you always have been following your passion. So I kind of want you to tell my listeners how and like what gives you that motivation to do that. So if you can give us a little bit of your story, that would be awesome.
Sure. I think I grew up with really supportive parents. They always told me to do what makes me happy. And I think that was pretty amazing given that we grew up in a generation where our parents were sort of directing us to be certain things that they wanted us to be. I was always very artistic and they really supported that side of it. So I think because of that, it really made me feel like, you know, if there was something I wanted to do, I was going to do it. I was always very driven, very entrepreneurial. Part of that is I had a brother who was 7 years older and a complete chauvinist who would say to me that you don't have to do anything. You just have to, you know, just find a nice husband and you'll be fine. Like, you don't need to work hard. Oh, you got a good grade. It doesn't matter. I mean, and this is what I grew up with. And,
right.
and I feel I've been trying to prove myself against what he said my whole life.
Right.
So, yeah. So I think that's kind of where my passions come. And I'm just a passionate person. I'm a creative, and we're all pretty passionate. And, you know, so I think that helps.
No, but and that's, I mean, right when we met in, I think it was a podcast club room. And I don't know if I was moderating or we both were on stage. I don't remember what exactly it was, but I remember you spoke and I was like, ooh, I like her. I want to talk to her. And right away we were in each other's DM boxes like, okay,
right.
Tell me about yourself. What are you doing? And then the conversations that we have about peeing.
Yeah. Oh my God. We're going to have a whole podcast on peeing.
We are.
Meanwhile, I was like drinking water today thinking like, oh God, I have this podcast with Juliette. I better not drink too much water because I'm going to have to get up.
Get up and pee. I did the same thing. I ran and went to the bathroom. Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, so tell us where you started and then your journey. So you went to college, you kind of take us through that a little bit.
It's a little long. I'll make it short. I started at Syracuse University I wanted to study fashion design and graphic design randomly. And they had a great program. I hated it. I transferred to FIT in New York City. I changed my major to interior design, interior architecture. And then I graduated with a degree in that. I worked in high-end residential interior design for a few years. Until I decided that I wanted to go back to school and do something totally different. So it's kind of interesting because I love interviewing people and I love talking to people.
Yes, me too,
and,
right.
Yeah, and so I was like, how can I do that? So at that point in my life, I thought social work was the way to do that. So I went back to school, got a degree in human services and sociology, started my master's in social work, And while I did well at it, I had also started a small business, an online retail store. This is back in 2002, I think.
Okay.
And I realized that while I loved interviewing people, I didn't need to do it in a psychological capacity. Right. So I more wanted to be Oprah. I didn't want to do that. So I left grad school, and then but I had some actually amazing experiences when I was in grad school doing counseling and stuff. And then I did a little bit more interior design work. I worked very briefly behind the scenes on Extreme Makeover Home Edition, for those of you that remember that show.
Yes, I do.
I was an assistant design producer. It was only a few episodes, but it was so much fun. I loved it.
Right.
And then my husband and I moved to London for 2 years. And while I was there, I didn't have a work visa and decided that I was going to do something, because I couldn't just go to classes and museums all day long.
Right.
Which is what you do basically when you're an expat wife there and you don't have a job.
Right.
So I started a blog and podcast, and this is in 2006.
Which is before,
no one knew what podcasts were. It was very, very new. And
especially over there, right?
Yeah.
In the UK, yeah.
I was mostly but all the top bloggers and influencers now were all my buddies. Had I continued doing what I was doing, I think I would have been big, but I didn't want to. It's so funny, when I stopped doing the blog, I was like, I don't want my life to be exposed to everyone all the time, which is such a joke, because that's all we do now, right? Right. So I should have just stuck to it, but I got pregnant and decided to move back to the States. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then when I came out of that, I was going to go back into interior design. I had done a renovation on our home, and was kind of using that as a portfolio at the time because I hadn't worked. And I really said to my husband, I don't love this. I never loved it. And a lot of people said, but you're good at it. And so I would keep doing it. Right. But I really just didn't find it creative enough.
And you know what's so interesting that you said that, because there is such a difference about being really good at something, but not loving it.
Right.
But having a passion about something and maybe not being as talented. But if you're passionate about something, you're going to get to that next step, right? Because sometimes passion outweighs talent.
Definitely. And it took me, and I will get to that point, but it took me a while to realize that. So I was always searching for, well, what are you passionate about? And it actually upset me, because I'd say to my husband, I don't have any hobbies or passions. I don't really know what it is.
Right.
And so I decided at that point, it was kind of random. So my mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother were very out there, style-wise, personality-wise. I never knew them. They died before I was born. Not my mother, my grandmother and great-grandmother.
Right.
But they had never loved what was in stores, and they designed their own clothes, they designed their own jewelry, their hats, their everything.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and so my mom always was redesigning jewelry, and she would take me with her to New York, and we would go to the jewelry district, and she would take apart old pieces of jewelry and put them together. And I learned a lot at a very young age, way too young of age. I learned about diamonds. Right. But I never thought. And I'm not even going into all the other millions of things I've actually done. I've done a lot of things, and jewelry was one thing I never thought of doing.
Okay.
So when I was in this position, I had moved back to the city. We lived in the suburbs briefly. I renovated our home, and then Hurricane Sandy came about 4 weeks after I renovated our home for 2 years, and dumped 5 feet of water in our house and destroyed it. And so we lost pretty much everything, and we had to move out for a year and rip everything out and start over again.
I'm sorry. That's so hard. We had a pipe burst, and I don't even remember what year it was, but it was a hot water pipe. Yeah. We had a neighbor, we were like, can you just check on the house? And he called me. We were in Connecticut, and he was like, he couldn't even speak. And I was like, Don, what is going on? He's like, there's water spraying everywhere. My husband literally got in the car, flew out here to the beach, stayed in the house. I was so worried he was going to freeze to death, because I was like, honey, we don't even know what we're doing. It was so insane. So I feel you. It's almost like a feeling, because before I got here, he's like, just prepare yourself. And I'm not really someone that's into materialistic things, but I have a lot, because this was our first house, I had a lot of sentimental things, like down to like a baby tooth, like those.
Yeah,
are the kind of things.
I did too. I lost all that stuff.
All that stuff. So I feel for you. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, the first haircut, I lost the baby books. Yes. I mean, there are a lot worse things in life, but it was pretty devastating and upsetting. And the next step was to renovate the house back to what it was, but we decided to go a little bit farther into the design because we felt that we wanted to do more because we could. It was a horribly stressful experience. We had to find somewhere to live, blah, blah, blah. I just looked at my husband at that point and I was like, I don't want to do this ever again. I do not want to renovate again. I don't want to renovate other people's homes. Like, this is not what I want to be doing.
Right.
And it was a birthday of mine, and I had a wedding band that it was just an eternity band, and I never wore it. And I asked him if I could take the stones and redesign it into something I would wear every day, something a little bit more edgy. And he's like, yeah, I don't care. That's fine. I designed it, and the jeweler that made it for me, he said, Doryn, have you ever thought about going into jewelry? And I said, no, actually, it's one thing I haven't thought about at all. And he said, I really think you should do it. So that's
so
how
cool.
Yeah, so that's how that began, which is now 7 years ago. And I can
So I want to hear. So what was the first podcast? What was that called, and what was that about? And then, so that was in 2006, right? Your blog.
So my blog was called Doryn's Dish, and
okay,
it was literally about my recommendations. So it was nothing different than anyone is doing today, but I was one of those people where my friends were constantly asking me for resources on everything. So I decided I'm going to put it up on a website. And then at the time, someone said you should make a blog. And I was like, what's a blog? And I taught myself how to make a blog.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and it ended up being so big that I was invited to hotels and spas to try on unique treatments and to, I don't know, I was so many different things. I was sent items and, I was really an influencer, which is so funny.
Back in 2006. But I also love that, like, that was in your moment, and then you had children and you decided, you know what, I'm going to take a break from that and I'm going to raise my family. Because that's what this series really is about. And this is what I want women out there to know. You don't have to do it all.
No.
You could do it in spurts, and you can also, like, we have a long life. Like, don't feel like you have to cram it all in. Like, and I love that you did that. So you had something big and you were like, you know what, I'm going to take a step back, raise my family. And then you went into a different direction because it was something that sparked your interest. And that's like, you didn't sit on it, right? You weren't like, no, I don't know. Who am I to be doing jewelry? I've never done it. You took a chance. So then you had your kids, then you started the jewelry. So take us from there and then where you are today with your new podcast.
Then I just want to follow up on what you just said. I think that, and I talk about this a lot on my podcast, a lot of women our age have a lot of guilt about whether they're working or not working. And we have this pressure because our generation was told that we're supposed to do everything. And
totally.
And it's not feasible. We can't do everything. And so I'm glad that you pointed that out, because I wish we just need to say it more to each other as women, because women are so hard on each other.
So hard on each other. Right.
Yeah.
And really, people really do expect, like, and there is, I feel like it's gotten a little bit better, but it is like, I'm like, you have women that are bragging, doing all these things. And I'm like, that sounds so exhausting.
Well, people say to me all the time, friends of mine are like, how do you do it all? And I was like, I drink a lot of wine. I yell at my kids. I don't sleep well. I'm anxious all the time. Do you want me to go on?
Right.
I mean, it's like not perfect. I'm overwhelmed most of the time, but I love it. So, it's like, I don't know. You got to give up some things.
Totally.
Okay. So you wanted me to go with jewelry. I found a mentor. I designed my first sample collection. My mentor, unfortunately, this is really crazy. So my first mentor, about 2 years into working with her very frequently, died of a heart attack at 51.
Oh.
And my other mentor, who was my first sample maker, my first jeweler, died last week of COVID.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so crazy. Two hugely important people to me in this business. So I'm going to go back to that because there's something related to that, and I think your listeners will find it interesting. But created my first collection, did very well in the beginning. I got a decent amount of press. I won a couple of awards. I made it into some big retailers. And I really, really loved it. I loved it. I had so much passion for what I was doing. As I got closer to it literally last year, probably last winter, I started to get a little bit annoyed with the retail and jewelry has been very difficult, and now it's even more so.
Right.
A lot of retailers want you to consign your jewelry, which to me really bothered me because I felt like, where else do we just give free stuff to sit in a space to make your store look nicer?
Right.
You know, it just bothered me. And frankly, it was very hard for me to sell jewelry. I'm like, oh, if you don't want it, it's okay. So
you're the creator, right?
I'm the creator. I'm the artist. I can't, it's very hard for me to do that. So that was the part of the business that really bothered me. And I said to my husband, and this is probably January, I was like, I need to change what I'm doing. So I said to him, I need to do something different in this business. I almost wanted to reinvent the business somehow because that's how my mind works.
Right.
And he said, well, what makes you happy? And I said, I love creating unique pieces and doing custom work. And he said, so why can't you just do that? And I said, yeah, I could, but I have all this inventory. I'm not sure what to do with it. I went right into this mode of, you know what? I'm not feeling passionate about this anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't want to let down my clients. I don't want to let down the industry, the press, the editors. I don't know what to do. And I was in my mind going back to a place of where I was happiest. Well, what did I do in the past that I loved? And I loved podcasting. I didn't mention this. When I lived in Connecticut, my daughter was a newborn. I had a brokered radio show in Greenwich.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and I loved doing it. So I was like, what made me happy? I loved podcasting. And then, of course, in my head, I'm like, everyone has a podcast, but whatever. I'm just going to do this as a passion project. And at the same time, I was recognizing that so many of my friends were going through this crazy transition of life that no one was talking to each other and no one was talking to us. We were, our parents were getting older. Our kids were getting older. We were like, what do we want to do with our lives now that our kids are getting older?
Right.
Just our bodies were changing and all these different things. And it made me, I was like, you know what? I want to know more too, because I'm feeling all of these things. So I decided that that's what the podcast was going to be about. And the pandemic happened probably the lockdown happened a week after I recorded my first episode.
Wow.
And then I was fully paralyzed. I'm not sure about you, but my brain was paralyzed for a solid 2 months. I couldn't create. I couldn't do business. I was so anxious. I just couldn't do anything.
Right.
Like most people.
I have to say, so in the beginning, the first 2 months, I was in heaven because my husband was traveling so much and everyone was under the same roof and I could just take a pause. And I was like, I loved it. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. Oh, okay. Now I'm getting a little like, I'm antsy, like what's happening. And
you want your husband to go away again?
I have to say, it's so funny. He probably is, I could live on his back. I'm the type of woman,
that's sweet.
I could live on his back. He, however, was like, oh my gosh, I have to get out a little bit. So he's more of like, he needs his space. I don't. I can live, like my dogs can be on me, my kids can be on me, but that's just the type of person I am. But a lot of people are not like
We're
that.
the opposite. I need alone time. And I honestly can't even tell you the last time. I actually said last night to everybody, I was like, I give up. I'm not mom anymore. I can't do this. I'm like, I need alone time. I never have alone time.
Yeah. I wake up early and I take the dogs for a walk.
You do. See, you're a morning person. I roll out at like 8.
Right. Right. No, I hear you. But I totally understand like where you were with that. It was like, oh my gosh, like, yes.
Right. And I felt the same thing as you. It really made me pause and say, God, you are in overdrive. I worked till 6. I ran to my office in Manhattan and I lived in the city and I went to my office. I was there till 6:30 at night. I sometimes would pick my son up at after school, rush home, walk in the door, make dinner, open boxes, do whatever that, it was like that every day. So when the pandemic happened, I was like, you have to slow down.
Yes.
This is not the way you want to live. So that was really eye-opening in a beautiful way. And I think really important for a lot of people to have that wake-up call.
Totally.
So I did my first recording, and then about 2 months into it, I started to get like kind of the itch and, learned how to record from home because I was in a studio in the city at the time. And that's really when It's Not a Crisis was born. And I worked on the social media a lot. And I love this so much.
I can tell.
I honestly, I love it more than anything I've ever done. The funny thing is, people are like, okay, well, where are you going with it? And I'm like, I don't know. I love helping women. I love getting these emails from women saying, thank you for making me be seen.
Right. Because you're talking about some good stuff. Like, so, I mean, you're talking about exactly what you just said. Like, we are all, and it's not talked about, right? It's not talked about how your bladder starts coming out of your vagina a little bit. Like, right? It's like,
right.
It's kind of like
upcoming topic on my show. Thanks, Juliet.
Right. But I mean, it's true, right? Or people like having to pee themselves. Like people don't, you and I are a little rare. We find the humor in it, right? We're like, ha ha ha, I peed in my neighbor's yard.
By the way, your listeners have no idea what we're like. This conversation happened prior to this podcast, but we both pee a lot.
and in random places.
In random places. I can't tell you. Someone's like, oh, the bathroom's dirty. I hope you don't mind. I'm like, are you kidding me? If I told you where I've peed, right. You would just like, yeah, it doesn't even faze me.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite topics that have like really like made you feel like, I know I'm helping the women that need to hear this? Like what have been some of your favorites?
One of my favorites was an episode I did on grief, and it wasn't just grief of somebody dying. It was grief of your past, even your present, or something, that just happens in your life, and how to deal with it, and that it's okay to feel sadness. I mean, I felt like one of the things we brought up is, women who tried to have babies forever and had infertility issues, and then they got pregnant and maybe didn't love having a baby so much, but like grieved the life they had before, but couldn't actually speak about that. But we went into so many different examples, and that was just a wonderful show. My second favorite probably are my Wise Women Over 50 interviews, because I was lucky enough. Everyone tells me my mom's interview is their favorite because my mom is wonderful but wacky. And then I interviewed Vanessa Williams and Annie Potts, which was like a huge honor.
Awesome.
And they really, I learned so much from those episodes. They were speaking to us at our age, having learned what they've learned.
Right.
And then I think my other episode that really spoke to a lot of women was I spoke with Dr. Lee Cohen, who's the head of women's mental health and the head of women's mental health at MGH in Boston, Mass General Hospital. Okay. And he focuses a lot on perimenopause, menopause. So there are a lot of women suffering with PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and perimenopause, and a lot of women who didn't even know it existed. You actually said to me, what is that? It's a very severe form of PMS that can cause not only pain and discomfort, but also serious mental health problems with anxiety and depression. And it happens prior to your period and during ovulation. And really, you don't get that many days a month where you feel normal. And there are so many doctors that just don't know anything about it. And you go to a doctor. I can't tell you how many I went to that looked at me like, sorry, take the pill or do this or take an antidepressant. I don't know what to tell you. Dr. Cohen is, and one of few men I've ever had on my podcast, but really sees women, and anything I've ever said to him, he's like, yeah, this isn't new to me. I mean, yes, like this all makes sense. So
interesting.
So he was wonderful. And then my last, just this week, I recorded with Ada Calhoun, who wrote a book called Why Women Can't Sleep. It's all about Gen X and our midlife crisis. And
so interesting.
So interesting. We covered a ton of topics. And I keep getting messages from women that are like, I felt so seen in this. I didn't even realize how much of this related to who I was. And it's such a great book. You have to get it.
Yes.
Read.
Oh my God. I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think those are my favorites.
I love that. So tell everyone where they can find you and like where your handles are, where they can find you on social media, what your podcast is called, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. So the podcast is It's Not a Crisis, and you can find it on anywhere that you listen to podcasts. My website is itsnotacrisis.com. I'd encourage you to sign up for the mailing list on there because we release what's coming up in the next show. Also a bunch of other little things on there and information, show notes. I've been doing transcripts for the shows too. So if you feel like you're sitting there taking notes, you can just go to the website and get the transcripts.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. My Instagram is It's Not a Crisis Podcast. We have a lot of fun on there. There are a lot of throwbacks to the 80s. There's a lot of humor. If you're a sensitive person, I suggest you don't follow. I got an email the other day from someone who was like, I don't even know. It was a message. She was like very serious about a joke that I had posted, and I was like, delete. And I actually wrote her back and said, listen, this is all a joke. It's fun. Like, there's so much seriousness in the world. We're having fun. If you don't want to follow me, I understand.
Right.
But like, if you're going to be my friend and listener, you need to have a sense of humor. So,
totally. And also say, like, I will say to people, like, if someone's like, oh, I'm going to share this with X, Y, and Z, I'm like, just make sure you let them know that I do say fuck. Like,
yes, exactly.
Because some people are like, okay, I didn't realize that was going to happen.
I mean, it's my favorite word.
Totally.
By the way, never swore in front of my kids in 13 years until the pandemic. Never, not once, to let it out. And Ty's like, I don't even know how you do that. And they're like, Mommy, you swear a lot. I was like, I've always sworn a lot. I was like, I decided to say fuck it and let it out.
So I love that you just said that, because there's so many things that you've said that I'm like, oh my God, I'm the same way. So I have always had a trash mouth. Yeah. Always. But I've always been really good with kids. I used to babysit, and I can turn it off and turn it on. I did not curse in front of my kids for I can't even tell you how long. I used to work for a British company, and they were like, there's no way you don't curse. And I was like, no, and it's not hard for me. When I'm around children, I don't curse.
Right.
And then my kids got to a certain age, and I totally curse now.
And you're like, you little fuckers. My kids, I call them the little S's, and they're like, Mommy, I know what that means now. I know all those years you were calling us little S's. I was like, what do you mean? Oh.
Right. Oops. Well, now my 15-year-old also has a bit of a trucker mouth. And like, some people are like, oh, no, my kids I won't allow them to curse. I use my language as an expression, and I'm okay with it. He cannot tell me to fuck off. Right. But if he's like, what the fuck? Or, has something like an expression, and that's the word he chooses, it doesn't bother me. I tell him, I'm like, don't curse in front of Grammy. She doesn't love it. It took me a long time to be able to curse in front of Grammy.
Oh my God. My mother would be mortified that I even just said what I said on here. She would kill me. She would kill me. And my kids, I'm still in the you can't curse stage, and they're like, why? You do. And I'm like, okay. In a few years, I'll let you do it more.
Well, so my daughter, every once in a while, I'll be like, Mom, because she's 11, so she's not allowed to curse. And my 13-year-old is just like, every once in a while, a word will get in. My 15-year-old, he does. And as I said, he doesn't curse at us, because then he would be in trouble, because we're very like, you don't disrespect us. Like, I don't curse at you. I don't call you names. But like, if you're, drop something, or you're really pissed about something, it's okay. But to my 11-year-old, every once in a while, she'll be like, Mom, can I curse? Because I'm feeling really like frustrated, or this happened at school, and I just want to use an expressive word. And I'm like, oh my God. Again, my mom would die that I'm like, okay, say it once. That's it. You're only allowed to say it once.
I love it.
It is. I mean, it is one of those things that, yes, it is. If someone does not enjoy cursing or gets offended by it, I'm like, my podcast might not be for you. And that's okay. Find one that resonates with you. Just as long as you're bettering yourself, you're finding the laughter in every day. That is something that's so important. And you're a good person. Right?
Exactly. Those are the words that I live by too. So, yeah.
Yes. So I cannot wait to hang out in person.
I know. I'm usually out there by April. So this year may be a little different, but I'm there like through September, October. So.
Well, perfect. Well, we will definitely be peeing on people's lawns together.
I live by the beach, so we can pee on the beach too.
Yes. So everyone, watch out. We could do like a little episode, right?
We could just sit on our beach chairs with a bottle of wine and not move.
We totally could. So I have actually done where I've worn Depends in jump roping competitions. Like,
oh my God. I've worn Depends on planes with no bathrooms.
It makes sense. Sometimes you have to, right? You have to.
It's so funny, right? Then we could share more about our crazy stories. So, Doryn, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time and sharing your journey and telling us about It's Not a Crisis podcast. You guys go check it out, go listen, subscribe, rate and review both of our podcasts. The more women that we can help, the better. And we are like, that's what our goal is. You guys, you have to find passion and find something, and don't just sit in where you are. Find something to do, find something that you love, and get out there and do it. So again, rate, review, share our podcasts, and we will see you next week with another Woman with Love What You Do series. Thanks again, Doryn.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you liked this episode of Your Next Stop. Please subscribe to my channel, share with your friends, and join in each week.